The beginnings of Global Witness, Simon Sharmin and I met while working for an environmental organisation. We were interested individually and coincidentally in Cambodia and the Khmer Rouge rebel group, notorious for their genocidal policies.
The Khmer Rouge at that stage were in the forested areas, and basically they were cutting logs and exporting them to Thai-based companies.
And we asked ourselves the question, is this an environmental problem? Is this a human rights problem?
The three of us just instinctively, I think, saw where the two overlapped, so where environmental destruction was often funding abuses of human rights.
No organisation at that time was looking at that nexus. And we thought that if you close that Thai-Cambodia border to the trade, you cut the money to the Khmer Rouge, you end the war.
And what we did was to basically pose as log buyers. We travelled around the border and we asked questions as buyers. Where did you get the logs from, how much, who did you pay, etc., etc. And they told us everything, which we filmed. It went front page the next day, and they shut the border. We basically took their money away. So that was the beginning of us.
Over the past few decades, natural resources have been key drivers of war, corruption, environmental and human rights abuse.
What should be a blessing, which is bountiful natural resources, all too often becomes a curse for developing countries.
They harm us and they tie all, they beat all, they do their day.
Tem petróleo, tem café, tem madeira, tem ferro, tem ouro, mas nunca vimos nada dessa riqueza. Essa riqueza tudo só vai neles.
Over more than 20 years, Global Witness's hard-hitting investigations and advocacy to tackle the root cause of these abuses have led to worldwide change that has improved the lives of tens of thousands and helped protect the planet that we depend on for our survival.
Over more than 2 decades, we've delivered incredible results. We put the issue of blood diamonds on the map and kick-started solutions to address the problem.
Tonight, the human rights group Global Witness documents an explosive trade in cassiterite from the Congo.
We find the facts, we expose the story, and we change the system.
This is lapis lazuli. Most of the world's supply is right here in Afghanistan.
Actually, at the moment, more than 50% of the revenue that's coming from the mines is being handed straight on to the Taliban.
Officially, this emporium in Myanmar's capital Naypyidaw is the only legal place to sell jade for export. But a report by Global Witness claims the industry is worth up to 31 billion, a figure equating to around half Myanmar's GDP.
We've ensured that 2/3 of the payments made by oil, gas, and mining companies to governments have to be revealed for public scrutiny. That means trillions of dollars can make their way to where they need to go in developing countries rather than wind up siphoned into offshore bank accounts.
Chasing communities off their land, destroying the environment, and violating human rights is standard operating procedure for too many businesses around the world. Global Witness investigates and exposes this crime across continents and is campaigning with its partners for laws to help bring an end to the heart of the global trade in land and natural resources.
We started to look at Virunga, which is one of Africa's oldest national parks and home to the critically endangered mountain gorillas. And we discovered that the Congolese government had awarded oil concessions for exploration, straddling Virunga's borders to a British company called SACO International.
SACO International's annual general meeting is going on in there right now. What we want to know is why SACO International paid a corrupt Congolese army officer and known human rights abuser at least $42,000 US.
The company's position on whether they funded the army directly has been flip-flopping. They denied to us directly and to media organizations that they ever paid the major in question or the soldiers. Now they're saying that they did pay them, but those payments were above board.
We've got a dynamic team of expert campaigners from diverse backgrounds: law, journalism, politics, advocacy. And they're all driven by courage and a real tenacity for justice. And sadly, it's those very same values that are resulting in the assassinations of an increasing number of environmental and land rights defenders each year.
We end today's show with a new report that finds at least 2 people working to save the environment were killed each week in 2014. In total, the group Global Witness documented the murders of at least 116 environmental activists last year. 3/4 of them were killed in Central and South America.
E aí a mesma perseguição que eles perseguem eles, que já morreram, é o mesmo que estão me perseguindo, me persegue também. Porque eu sou da mesma família, sou da mesma comunidade, aí acontece isso.
We convinced the International Criminal Court that they should be trying cases for land grabbing and environmental destruction alongside cases against war criminals.
Global Witness's investigations always follow the money. We look at the roots of conflict, corruption. Where is the money coming from? Where's it going?
Corruption is something that people sometimes think is happening somewhere over there in a country that they know perhaps very little about. But in fact, major corruption is actually facilitated right here in our very own backyard.
There's no place for dirty money in Britain, says David Cameron. He's promised to crack down on dodgy offshore companies that buy up luxury properties in the UK.
The presence of corrupt money in London's property market is a bad thing for a lot of people. It props up corrupt regimes overseas and means that a lot of people are stuck in poverty and violence and don't have access to things like education.
And what we see at our investigations at Global Witness is often corrupt officials use layer upon layer of companies to really hide and disguise their ownership.
These are companies set up all over the planet, and nobody really knows who owns them.
But the reality is that you can incorporate a company in all 50 states, and in no state do you actually have to disclose the real owners of those companies.
Here we're looking largely at Western enablers of corruption, the banks, the financial institutions, the attorneys, and the policies, laws, and regulations themselves, which enable foreign companies and governments to essentially swindle national treasuries of their precious resources. Sometimes these feel like really big, complicated problems in a globally interconnected world. But the truth is that the problems and the solutions are visible all around us. The real question is, are we as humans at a delicate moment in life's history going to look the other way, or are we going to try to find our way to being a part of the solution we know is possible?